I'm not grouchy. I just need
that dick.
And just to clear the air, I don't give a about how nobody feel about me. Keep feeling it, bitch.
This is the story of Meshay Melendez.
She gave exactly what they asked for. And then he got out. And then killed 2 innocent lives.
In March 2023, law enforcement in Vancouver, Washington, opened an investigation into the disappearance of 27-year-old Meshay Melendez and her 7-year-old daughter, Layla Stewart. Both were last seen with Meshay's former boyfriend, Kirkland Warren, a man with a documented history of violence and an active criminal case involving a drive-by shooting at Melendez's residence. Court records show that Warren was ordered to wear a GPS ankle monitor following a hearing on March 7, 2023, but the device was never installed. He was released from custody on March 8th without electronic monitoring or supervision. Within days, Melendez and her daughter were reported missing.
Joining us at 5, I'm Reich Azawad.
And I'm Deborah Knapp. Melendez's boyfriend, Kirkland Warren, is a person of interest in this case. K2's Emily Gersh is at the Clark County Courthouse. So, Emily, what do advocates say went wrong here?
Well, I spoke with Michelle Bart, the president and CEO of the National Women's Coalition Against Violence and Exploitation. She says Kirkland Warren's criminal record shows he was an extreme risk of lethality to Melendez, and she doesn't believe he should have been released from jail earlier this month.
On March 22, 2023, their bodies were found in a wooded ravine near Washougal, Washington. Autopsy reports confirm both victims died from gunshot wounds to the head. Forensic analysis linked DNA and ballistic evidence to Kirkland Warren. He was arrested and charged with multiple counts, including aggravated first-degree murder and first-degree child molestation. Before we dive into today's story, we want to hear from you. Where are you tuning in from? And how you feel as the story unfolds. Welcome to Deadly Crime Unmasked, the show where we expose the shocking crimes that rip through communities and the chilling secrets lurking behind closed doors. These are real people, real events, real consequences. Don't forget to subscribe and activate notifications. You won't want to miss the gripping story that's coming up. Now, let's dive in.
In this particular case, of all the hundreds of cases I've worked on, this, by far, is one of the most painful cases.
Melendez and her daughter were found slain in a wooded area in Clark County on Wednesday. Here is the timeline of events leading up to that discovery. Court documents show Warren was arrested on March 2nd for shooting at Melendez's home in December. On March 3rd, he was released on bail in order to have no contact with Melendez. On March 6th, he was arrested again for violating the protection order by calling Melendez from jail. On March 8th, he was released from jail. On March 12th, the last reported sighting of Melendez and her daughter, and witnesses say they were with Warren in his car. On March 18th, her family reported Melendez and her daughter missing. On March 20th, Warren was arrested and charged with tampering with a witness, violating a protection order, and unlawful possession of a firearm. On March 21st, Warren was named a person of interest in the disappearance of Melendez and her daughter, and a judge ordered that bail be increased to $1 million. They also ordered ankle monitoring. On March 22nd, the bodies of Melendez and her daughter were found. Family friend Jean Booth is Meshay's godmother.
She was so beautiful, so outgoing. She was a great mom. And Layla was the most gorgeous. She probably would have been a supermodel if given the chance to grow up. God, it breaks my heart.
Court documents show Warren scored a 31 on a danger assessment scale that only went up to 18. He also has an indictment for murder in Arkansas from 2017. Bart says the court system knew this information and failed to protect Melendez and her daughter.
And when somebody ranks a 31 with a maximum of only 18, that should be a huge red flag to keep them locked up. So shame on the county. Shame on the county.
Now, Warren remains a person of interest in this case, but police say he has not been charged for their deaths. Meanwhile, a grieving family is preparing to bury a daughter and her granddaughter as they wait for justice. The detective I spoke with said it's not an easy task to pass legislation that would keep dangerous criminals behind bars. She says the passing of the 2020 Tiffany Hill Act was a significant achievement, but although it wasn't applied in this case, there's no way to tell if it would have helped save the lives of Meshay Melendez and her daughter.
Meshay Melendez was a 27-year-old woman residing in Vancouver, Washington, within Clark County. She lived with her 7-year-old daughter, Layla Stewart, in an apartment complex in the city. Melendez was known by neighbors and family as a devoted mother who centered her life around the well-being of her child. Though public records do not specify her employment details, she was locally recognized as a caring parent who maintained an active presence in her daughter's school and community. Her daily life revolved around raising Layla, spending most of her time with family members and close friends. Melendez was previously involved in a romantic relationship with Kirkland Warren, a man she would later seek to protect herself and her daughter from. Their relationship began on seemingly ordinary terms, but eventually became volatile and dangerous. Over time, the partnership evolved into one marked by domestic conflict, intimidation, and abuse. Reports later confirmed that Melendez had filed for a protection order against Warren due to repeated threats and acts of violence. These legal filings detailed Warren's aggressive tendencies, his unpredictable outbursts, and the escalating risk to her safety. Friends recalled that Melendez made multiple attempts to distance herself from him, indicating that she was aware of the potential danger he posed. The local police and social services had prior knowledge of the volatile nature of the relationship. Records show that law enforcement had responded to domestic-related incidents involving the pair before the murders. Melendez's communication with officers suggested a growing sense of fear, especially after incidents involving weapons and property damage. Despite these warning signs, Warren continued to contact and approach her, sometimes violating existing protective measures. Melendez's actions demonstrate a pattern of attempts to secure safety for herself and her daughter. She sought legal intervention, contacted police when necessary, and confided in trusted relatives about her concerns. However, the system designed to protect her failed to enforce critical measures that could have prevented the events that followed. The suspect, Kirkland Warren, was 28 years old at the time of the crimes. He carried a criminal record that included a prior murder charge in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, dating back to 2017. Reports from that case revealed that Warren had been charged with killing a man, but was released from custody after posting bond. After his release, he relocated to Washington State, where he began a new life while still under legal supervision from his prior case. Warren's criminal history reflected a consistent pattern of violence and disregard for legal boundaries. Police reports from his time in Washington noted his aggressive behavior, threats toward others, and escalating conflict with Melendez. Over time, his relationship with her became increasingly abusive, characterized by stalking, intimidation, and physical aggression. The relationship timeline between Melendez and Warren began in early 2022 and quickly deteriorated. By mid-2022, she had already reported concerns to authorities. His conduct grew more alarming when Melendez attempted to separate from him. Reports described threatening messages, uninvited appearances, and attempts to control her movements. In December 2022, Warren was arrested following a drive-by shooting directed at Melendez's apartment building. Investigators determined that the act was intended to intimidate her after a disagreement. He was taken into custody and charged with drive-by shooting, second-degree assault, harassment, and unlawful possession of a firearm. While in custody, Warren violated the no-contact order issued to protect Melendez by making phone calls to her from jail, in direct defiance of the court's order. These communications demonstrated a continued pattern of disregard for legal restrictions. Despite the repeated warnings and violations, authorities were aware of Warren's history and the risks associated with his release. His documented violent past and his ongoing behavior toward Melendez were clear indicators that he posed a significant threat. Yet, those factors did not prevent subsequent administrative decisions that would later prove fatal. After the December 2022 drive-by shooting, Warren was arrested and booked into the Clark County Jail. Prosecutors filed formal charges, and bail was initially set an amount that allowed the possibility of release. During early proceedings, prosecutors and court officers reviewed his prior record, including his Arkansas murder charge, but no action was taken to deny bail outright. During Warren's March 7, 2023 pretrial hearing, the court acknowledged the risks he posed. As a condition of release, the judge ordered a GPS ankle monitor to track his movements and a victim notification system to alert Melendez if Warren attempted to contact or approach her. These measures were intended to provide a layer of safety while he awaited trial on his pending charges. However, court and probation documentation later revealed that the monitoring system was never installed. Despite being an official court order, administrative miscommunication between the Clark County Pretrial Services and the probation department resulted in a complete failure to enforce the monitoring requirement. On March 8, 2023, Warren was released from custody without a GPS device and without any form of electronic supervision. There was no follow-up verification that the order had been completed, and no notification was provided to Meshay Melendez about his unsupervised release. Internal reports later indicated that staff members assumed another department had handled the installation, leading to the oversight. This failure left a known violent offender free and unmonitored, despite a clear judicial mandate. The lack of communication between departments and the absence of procedural accountability meant that no one confirmed whether Warren was being tracked. The victim, who believed he was under supervision, was left unaware that the monitoring system meant Protector had never been activated. Multiple protocols were bypassed or ignored in this process. Supervising officers did not check the case file for confirmation of device activation. There was no system in place to alert the court or prosecution that the order remained incomplete. Consequently, Warren was able to move freely, contact Melendez again, and ultimately carry out the crimes that ended her and her daughter's lives. Law enforcement's prior involvement, rather than preventing escalation, exposed deep procedural flaws. At least 3 separate interactions, his arrest, his violation of the no-contact order, and the GPS monitor order, offered opportunities for intervention. None were executed effectively. The release of a known violent offender, without court-ordered monitoring, created the exact conditions that led to the tragedy. Each administrative failure, from the missing device to the absence of follow-up communication, contributed directly to the vulnerability of the victim and her child. This stage of the case represents a period where systemic negligence aligned with repeated warning signs, forming the foundation for the events that followed. The breakdown in enforcement, the disregard for court instructions, and a lack of coordination between agencies all formed a sequence of preventable errors. Meshay Melendez had done what the law required. She sought help, filed protection orders, and cooperated with authorities. Yet, by March 2023, the systems responsible for her safety had failed to act on her own safeguards, allowing her abuser to remain unsupervised and in close proximity. In early March 2023, Meshay Melendez, a 27-year-old mother from Vancouver, Washington, and her 7-year-old daughter, Layla Stewart, were reported missing. Their disappearance was linked to Meshay's ex-boyfriend, Kirkland Warren, who had a history of violent behavior. On March 11th, Meshay, Layla, and Warren were seen together at an acquaintance's home. The following morning, March 12th, they were observed leaving in a burgundy Dodge Charger around 6 a.m. This was the last confirmed sighting of the pair. By March 18th, family members had not heard from Meshay or Layla. A friend reported that the apartment was unoccupied except for the family dog, which was inside and barking. A welfare check was conducted at their residence, Springfield Meadows Apartments, but no one was found. On March 19th, Meshay's vehicle, a 2000 Chrysler 200, was located in the 7800 block of Northeast Lewitt Loop. Later that day, police executed a search warrant at Warren's residence and arrested him on charges, including tampering with a witness, violation of domestic violence orders, assault, drive-by shooting, and unlawful possession of a firearm. On March 22nd, a passerby reported seeing what appeared to be 2 life-size mannequins off the road near Washougal. Upon investigation, authorities discovered the bodies of Meshay and Layla. Identification was confirmed through unique genetic markers, and the Clark County Medical Examiner's Office was working on determining the cause and manner of death. Following the welfare check on March 18th, investigators collected Meshay's vehicle and personal items for evidence. Statements from friends and family were gathered, and a timeline was reconstructed, placing Warren as the last known person with Meshay and Layla. Police obtained warrants for Warren's phone, vehicle, and home. Forensic traces were discovered in his vehicle, and security footage placed his car near the Washougal River Road area. Search operations expanded into rural Clark County, and public involvement increased through social media circulation of missing persons posters. Based on early forensic results, the investigation transitioned from a missing persons case to a suspected homicide. The discovery of the bodies and the evidence collected led authorities to focus on Warren as the primary suspect. On March 22nd, 2023, a passerby reported to the Clark County Sheriff's Office about suspicious items resembling life-size mannequins in a wooded ravine off State Route 14 near Washougal, Washington. Deputies responded to the scene and discovered 2 bodies wrapped in bedding material. The remains were later identified through forensic analysis as 27-year-old Meshay Melendez and her 7-year-old daughter, Layla Stewart. The crime scene was meticulously documented. Both victims were found in close proximity to each other, suggesting they were disposed together. The area was concealed, indicating an attempt to hide the bodies. The Clark County Medical Examiner's Office conducted autopsies and determined that both victims died from gunshot wounds to the head. Layla Stewart's body showed signs of sexual assault, prompting further forensic examination. Ballistic evidence recovered from the scene linked the firearm used to Kirkland Warren, Melendez's ex-boyfriend. DNA evidence collected from the bodies matched Warren's profile, and clothing fibers found on the victims connected them to Warren's residence. A public statement was released confirming the deaths as a double homicide, and the case was transferred to the Clark County Major Crimes Unit for further investigation. Following the discovery of the bodies, law enforcement agencies intensified their efforts to locate Kirkland Warren. Surveillance was conducted on his known whereabouts, and a search warrant was executed at his apartment. During the search, investigators recovered a handgun, ammunition, and other incriminating evidence. DNA analysis confirmed that the evidence found matched Warren's profile. On March 31st, 2023, Warren was taken into custody without resistance. He was charged with multiple offenses, including aggravated first-degree murder for the death of Meshay Melendez, first-degree murder for the death of Layla Stewart, first-degree child molestation, unlawful possession of firearm, additional charges related to domestic violence violations. An initial hearing was conducted in Clark County Superior Court, where bail was denied and Warren was ordered held pending trial. The public release of charging documents detailed the brutality of the crimes, leading to widespread community outrage and demands for accountability. During the preliminary hearing, prosecutors presented evidence of Warren's extensive history of domestic violence, including a previous arrest for a drive-by shooting at Melendez's apartment complex. They emphasized the premeditated nature of the crimes, noting that Warren had been armed and had planned the murders to conceal his earlier offenses. The prosecution strategy focused on establishing a pattern of escalating violence and the deliberate planning of the murders. They highlighted the violation of protective order and the failure of the justice system to prevent the tragedy. Forensic evidence, including ballistic reports and DNA analysis, was presented to link Warren directly to the crimes. Initially, Warren pleaded not guilty to all charges. However, as the trial progressed, he changed his plea. He pleaded guilty to aggravated first-degree murder for the death of Melendez and second-degree murder for Layla Stewart. Additionally, he entered an Alford plea to first-degree child molestation, acknowledging that the state had sufficient evidence to convict him, though he did not admit guilt. The prosecution filed for aggravating circumstances, aiming for the maximum penalty under Washington law. Testimonies from law enforcement officers and forensic experts detailed the investigation process and the evidence collected. They described the recovery of Warren's firearm, which matched the bullets found at the crime scene, and the DNA evidence linking him to the sexual assault of Layla. Furthermore, the court considered Warren's prior criminal behavior in Arkansas, where he was involved in a 2017 murder case, to establish a pattern of violent conduct. On October 8, 2024, Clark County Superior Court Judge David Gregerson sentenced Kirkland Warren to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The judge cited the severity of the crimes, the vulnerability of the victims, and a violation of protective order as factors in determining the sentence. The court also acknowledged the failures in the supervision system that allowed Warren's release without proper monitoring. Warren was transferred to the Washington State Penitentiary, where he will serve his sentence. The case has prompted discussions about the need for stricter enforcement of protective orders and better monitoring of individuals with histories of violence. The legal proceedings concluded with the sentencing, officially closing the case in the prosecuting attorney's office. However, the case has continued to influence public policy and discussions on domestic violence prevention. If this story gripped your heart and left you questioning the truth, don't forget to hit that like button and share it with others who need to hear it. For more chilling true crime stories that dive deep into the mysteries behind these tragedies, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest updates, investigations, and thought-provoking discussions. Thank you for being part of this journey with us as we uncover the truth and seek justice. Together, we can make a difference. Stay safe, stay aware, and we'll see you in the next one.